We're happy to say that this webinar is made possible by a grant from the National Association of Community Health Centers and Community Catalyst. And the actual funding is coming from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So we're going to move forward, and we've talked about some preliminaries. Here's our quick agenda. I'm going to present a little bit of information, very short, about the uninsured in Arizona and the demographics of the uninsured in Arizona. Marcus from Vitalist Health Foundation is going to show us a tool where you can literally look at your county or here in Arizona and to try to figure out where uninsured people reside in your area. And then most of our time will be with Mary Rabago, who is actually a bridge to the Hispanic population in Arizona. And she is going to really focus on how we can become more effective in our communications. And just one more time, since I am getting no feedback, can some of you let me know if my volume and if I'm being heard clearly? Is everything okay with that? Just, you can type it into the chat.
Alan, this is Shelley. We can hear you fine.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're the only other picture of anybody, so we thought that nobody else was there.
No, we have about 24 attendees today.
Okay, excellent. Well, you can see the agenda. Let's get moving here because we want most of our time to be with Mary. And I clicked on something, and now I'm having a hard time advancing slides. There we are. So, before COVID, remember the days when we could have large community-based health fairs and events, and we could go out and talk to people for outreach. Well, here we are today. We kind of have to do everything virtually or just one person at a time, which is not what we're used to, of course. So let's talk about Arizona's uninsured. The US Census estimates that in 2019, there were about 809,000 uninsured people in Arizona. And interestingly enough, other researchers state that approximately 60% of the uninsured earn less than 200% federal poverty level. So that means $52,400 for a family of four. I bring that up because people that have low incomes, under 200,000, are eligible for more financial assistance than people that earn more. So let's go forward, and you'll see here, Arizona generally has an 11.1% uninsured rate. But Arizonans that earn 200% or less FPL, their uninsured rate is 19.2. It's interesting to note that females in Arizona have a 13.8% uninsured rate, while males have 17%. That is not surprising because you know that women make the decisions about health care for families, and they are more likely to be covered as well as more likely to have their children covered. And guys just think that they don't need it somehow. So that's a little bit of background. But I need to make the point that this 809,000 number and these percentages all are before COVID, back when we could have large crowds. So if we go forward, I want to point out that about 1/3 of Arizona in the Latinx population or Hispanic population have about a 19.4% uninsured rate, while the general white population has a 8.6% 8.6% uninsured rate. Going back there, you can see that American Indians have even a higher uninsured rate. But if you haven't ever looked at the numbers, just look at the difference. 2.3 million Hispanic Arizonans and only 286,000 American Indian Arizonans. So our two largest ethnic groups are very different in size. When we look at who lost jobs or work hours or income in the March to April timeframe, I couldn't find a more recent one because we know the economy has improved. You can see on this Urban Institute slide that the Hispanic population was almost 20 points higher than the non-Hispanic white population when it came to losing income, losing jobs, having their hours cut back because of COVID. Another slide, it's a poll. What this is saying is that someone in the household has lost a job or taken a pay cut due to the COVID virus. And again, this goes back into that March, April timeframe. But you see, the range was 49 to 61% of Hispanics said that someone had lost income in the household. And the Black population, while small in Arizona, but nevertheless significant, the range was 36 to 44, and the general white population was 29 to 38. So the top of this range for white was 38, and the Hispanic population, you see, goes from 49 to 61. So it's pretty easy to make the statement and to understand that Arizonans with lower income were more likely to be furloughed or have lost jobs. And we also know that the Hispanic population in Arizona was very hard hit with loss of jobs and income. Now, one of the interesting things about this slide is that if you look at the tallest column here, 14% of the people were saying they'd been furloughed, and 35% said that I've lost my job. And this was the category where someone was earning less than $25,000 a year. If we go across and look at these different incomes, it's very interesting how those that were furloughed keeps going down, down, down as the income goes up. But then when we get to the 100,000 up to 150,000, the number that were furloughed jumps up again. That seems kind of strange. But the big variance is you can see that for those that earned 150,000 or more, only 3% lost their job and only 3% said they had been furloughed. But then when we start looking at the red as we go across again, when we get to incomes of 50 to 75,000, 13% said they lost their job. But when we get to 25 to 50,000, 17% said they lost their job. And when we get to the lowest income on this scale of 25,000, 35 out of 100 people said they lost their jobs. So again, it just drives the point home that lower income were hit harder than any other group, and that Hispanics in Arizona were hit very hard by job loss and coverage loss. So this is just kind of the background that we wanted to open up with, and I wanted to turn it over to Marcus. And Marcus, I'm going to click on the slide, and Meredith, I'm going to say stop sharing my screen, and then can you make Marcus Johnson the presenter, and he can talk about where to find low-income uninsured people in Arizona. I see.
Hey,
Marcus.
everyone.
Hi.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
All right, fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and open up my screen and let's see if my screen share will work. Screen one.
Hey, Marcus, I like the beard.
Hey, you know, COVID.
COVID.
Why not? Why not try?
Okay. There you are, Marcus.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this way. So we wanted to just take a few minutes to let everybody know about a tool that we've had in place for a few years now to help all of the navigators and assisters and anybody who's interested in health insurance, enrollment, and outreach to figure out where are the people in the families that are most likely to be uninsured in Arizona. And the theory here is that if we know where they're more likely to be, we can really focus our outreach efforts and strategically conduct outreach. So on Cover Arizona's website, coveraz.org, it looks like this.
We're seeing your whole desktop right now.
Oh, you only seen the desktop. I apologize.
We did see it earlier. There you go.
There we go. Okay. So on coverarizona.org, you can go up to the top right where it says For Assisters, go down here to Outreach, and there's a whole bunch of tools and memos and information that we've collected over the years in here to help with outreach. You want to find here uninsured rate by county. This will bring up maps that we've created that show our most populous counties in Arizona. And it should show you maps such as this. So we're going to look at Maricopa County really quick. And what we've done is we've narrowed down the zip codes that are the most likely to be uninsured. So any of the zip codes that you see highlighted in red or lighter shades of red here, those are the top 10% of zip codes with the highest uninsured rates. And when you zoom in on them, so I can zoom in here to, let's go into Maryvale area. Zip codes 85033 and 85031. When I hover over them, I can also see the density. How many uninsured people are there per acre, roughly? And so that's where you see the shading come into play. So the lighter shaded areas are lower in density of uninsured people, and the darker red areas are higher in density for uninsured people. And this kind of helps to say, listen, this is where folks are most likely to be that are uninsured. And in specific geographic areas, there's a higher density of population of uninsured individuals. And when you click, you can see estimates about the density, the number of uninsured. So in this zip code, there's over 14,000 people who are uninsured. And then again, the percent uninsured. So I'm going to zoom back out. And again, so this specifically is looking at Maricopa County. Any of the areas that are highlighted have really high percent uninsured rates. And you can view the shading based on density of uninsured. So for instance, way out here outside of Fountain Hills on the way up toward Payson, basically, you see that there's a high percentage of uninsured people. It's almost 40% uninsured, but the density is really, really sparse. There's only 500 people in that whole geographic area up here that are uninsured. And so the density of people in there is really, really tough to find. So if you're going to conduct outreach, maybe you have some connections in this geographic area, but if you don't, it might be more advisable to dive deeper into areas in Central Phoenix and out towards Tempe and Mesa and some areas of Scottsdale that have a high percent uninsured and a higher density of uninsured individuals. The second map down here breaks it down to even smaller geographic areas using census tracts. So I can actually dive down into zip codes and see smaller geographic areas in census tracts that show where people are most likely to be uninsured. So this is just one tool to really help anybody who's interested in trying to geographically locate where people are most likely to be that are uninsured. We also have the maps for Pima County, Coconino County, Yuma County, and Yavapai. So when I look at Pima County, for example, this pops up and all the text here kind of walks you through exactly what the data is showing you. But you can look at, again, the highlighted areas are those areas most likely to be uninsured. So it's, in this case, again, it's the 90th percentile or the top 10% for uninsured. And when you zoom in, you can see the shading is based on density. So the lighter shading is lower uninsured per acre. The darker is higher uninsured per acre. So if you're an organization trying to maximize your outreach opportunities, trying to locate families that are uninsured, this is a great tool to do so. Some of our partners in these areas are using these tools to go into certain geographic areas, ask themselves, who are the businesses, the trusted resources, the community partners in these areas, and how can we let them know that health insurance is an important thing that some of the residents in this area need, and that Cover Arizona or your organization are there to help. So I'll stop there and I will take questions if we have a couple of minutes. And again, these resources are available to anybody and everybody. And if you need specific help with them, don't hesitate to reach out.
Marcus, why don't you take time for one or two questions, but also stop sharing your screen and I can queue up the next slides.
Will do.
And I put a direct link to the maps in chat because some people were having a hard time finding it. You've got so much information on Cover Arizona, it's hard to find which one. Any questions, you can put them in chat and Marcus will answer them. And I'm looking at chat right now. I'm not seeing any questions, Marcus, so stick around and hopefully we'll have some more at a later date or later today. And now for some reason, when I switched back to sharing my screen, I lost some of the other functionality that I had. Are we seeing Marcus's screen or my screen right now?
Alan, it shows that we are viewing Alan Gjersvig's screen, and we see the PowerPoint.
Excellent. Good.
But it's not in PowerPoint mode. It's in the.
Yeah, I was just switching over to PowerPoint mode. Excellent. Great. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. I will be on for probably another 5 minutes. If anybody has any questions, I have to jump off. But if there's anything else I can do between now and the next few weeks, let me know.
And we can capture any questions that come up later in the day and get them to you. Great. So thank you so much, Marcus, for your help. And there again, on the screen, you can see the link. We can send you the slides at the end of the day, but also I put it in the chat. So moving forward, outreach practices then and now. Back in the prehistoric, pre-COVID days, a long time ago, we could go to health fairs, big gatherings, school and parent meetings, live presentations to different groups. We could encourage partners with lists to promote outreach and enrollment, whether it be for food insecurity or health coverage. We could use mass media and social media. Well, with COVID, many of the people and organizations on the line today are viewing this, switched to using school digital communications and then tried to build relationships with the communication directors in school districts, because boy, did their jobs get elevated. The technology people all of a sudden had to figure out how to do remote teaching, but all communications were then relegated to virtual or digital with parents. So the communication director at a school district needs to be your best friend. We can still encourage partners with lists to reach out to their members in mass media. We can use social media in the general sense, but some of the folks that are on the line today, I say line, I should say listening to the broadcast, use social media to closed groups. One example is there are many moms groups all over the state. Sometimes they're statewide or national, sometimes they're local to a community. These navigators and sisters joined moms groups. Now, there must be other closed groups that you could also join, say, in Facebook, and you build relationships and inform people of the fact that there is help available. There are options available. One of the Navigator groups we work with went on one-to-one visits to small businesses. And what they did is they went to small businesses that catered specifically to Hispanic tastes, essentially the Hispanic butcher market. I can never say carnitas correctly, so I won't even try, even though I did. So the idea is that different cultures prefer certain foods. So they went door to door to certain businesses, and they had great luck of first the owners, then the employees, and then the owners started saying, can we have flyers to distribute to our customers? So any small business or business that caters to a particular culture might be helpful for you. So foundational questions in considering reaching people, whether it's before or after COVID, is where do they live? Where do they work, shop, play, pray? Where do they gather, virtually or live? That certainly could be sporting events. Soccer, very popular with families. That might be a great place. But you can also ask yourself, what are they listening to? Where are they going to read their information? And those foundational questions are our foundation, if you can let me say foundation twice, to our special presenter, Mary. And our challenge is that COVID has really impacted people of Hispanic background. People with low incomes have high uninsured rates, but they also have access to financial assistance and they don't know it. So our challenge is, how do we improve effectiveness of our outreach tactics and messaging to Hispanic populations? So Meredith, please, I'm going to stop sharing right now and introduce Mary. Mary Rabago should become our next presenter. And I just want to say that I've known Mary for about 8 years. I love her line that she's a bilingual bridge to the Hispanic community. She has been a strong supporter of getting the message out about options and enrollment because of her 5 critical issues that she uses her celebrity as well as her radio and television show: health, education, politics, and finance. So I want to just say thank you to Mary, and the rest of our time today is really with you, Mary. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be with everyone today. And hopefully, I don't have slides to show because I like to do it interactive. I don't do things traditionally, as you know, Alan, through this time. And this is actually how we have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to communicating with the people we want to reach. Definitely, social media is a platform I chose when I left the mainstream media 7 years ago. And times of COVID, it's where everybody is. I'm sure if you have some type of Latino background, you know, even your grandparents, your parents, yourself, your kids are going to be on social media, particular Facebook. It's the platform the Latinos choose to gather their daily news or information, which is not the most reliable place, but it's the place that they have found to have a connection or a sense of community or relationship. So I see myself, before I continue, only on the side on the small screens, but I don't see myself on the main screen. So I'm not sure how everyone else is seeing. So let me know if I have to do something different or if Meredith needs to do any movement there. I don't have slides to present. It's just a conversation that I want to have with everyone, and I want to have it interactive. So hopefully I can answer a lot of your questions and make it more valuable for you, the time spent today. There we go. We're in gallery mode now. Perfect. So we go to speaker. If you put me as a speaker, then they'll see my screen. I know we're seeing Alan right now, or is it just on my end of the things? I feel handicapped.
Right. Yeah, looks like Meredith, right now you're in gallery view, so Alan and I are hidden, and you can see the KHEC team and Ashley Torres. Did you need to see anything else?
It's up to you. If you guys want to put me as a speaker, then they have it there. If not, it's fine.
Okay.
I don't mind. I just didn't know what the rest of the people joining us was seeing. So
yeah,
we can only see you right now, and thank you.
Wonderful. I'm a control freak. I'm sorry when it comes to Zoom and social media right now, because it's all what I've been doing for months and months and months. So anyway, going back to the conversation. Numbers don't lie, and as Marcus and also Alan help us see today, the Latino community has been hit across the board nationwide, but particularly here in Arizona. And we don't have the traditional means of reaching out to them anymore. So it's very important to know how to reach out to them. Social media is definitely the place to be. Instagram and Facebook are the two platforms mostly used by Latinos. When it comes to family members or friends, they're always on WhatsApp, because that's the freedom that they have to communicate with them, you know, across the borders in many ways. But particularly when it comes to getting information or sharing information, is Facebook and Instagram the platforms that they choose. Now, one point that I want to make sense, and it might be very obvious for most of us here, but it's important to make you know, emphasis that we're not all Mexicans. I am from across the border in Sonora, Mexico. That's where I was born. But Latinos, even in Arizona, we're not all of Mexican descent in many ways. With that said, we might speak Spanish, but the culture is different and we use words different. Just to give you a very simple example of that, and why is it we have to be so casual in the way we connect with them, but also be so careful. Where I am from in Sonora, we use a slang called huila. So my abuelita, my grandma used to tell me, mijita, estás muy huila, meaning that you're too thin, you need to eat. You know, typical grandmas and mothers, Latinas, they always want to feed us, right? But when you go to the next day, most of my sisters, I'm the oldest of 9 kids, and there's a story behind why I'm sharing this personal information with you. So we're 9 kids. I'm the oldest of 9 kids, 7 girls and 2 boys in my household. Most of my sisters marry people from Chihuahua, which is a state next to Sonora in Mexico, right? So when my brothers-in-law, their family, would hear us mention the word huila, they would laugh, and we didn't know why. So huila in Chihuahua is a slang used to describe a bicycle. To add more spice to the you know, that conversation, we had some friends move close to our home in the West Valley that they were from Michoacan. And one of my aunts was visiting from Sonora, and she was referring to one of my sisters that she was too huila, too thin, right? In her way of using the word. Well, to that family, they were very offended, and we couldn't understand why. Well, huila in the southern part of Mexico is a slang referred to describe a prostitute. So why am I giving you this story? It's because you have to be very careful, not only knowing the language, the slang within that community, but particularly the background and the cultural background. We're not all Mexicans, and even among Mexicans, there's a difference depending on what region of Mexico you are with the kind of words that you're gonna be using. So that's very important when you're gonna be utilizing social media to connect with them, because you're gonna be with a range of backgrounds in the Latino community in the area. So you have to be very organic, very natural to connect with them on social media. You definitely can be so proper, so formal. You have seen my social media post, and I did one for Cover Arizona not too long ago, that I know the ladies were giving me feedback that they got a lot of calls. Well, I was actually cooking in the kitchen, and they want to see you as how you are in your daily life. They want to feel that they connect with you. They want to know that you're the same as them, and you understand where the situation they're facing or the challenges. So it's very important. So I was cooking pozole. My parents were craving pozole and I decided to do it. I said, you know, it's a good time to connect with them. So while I'm cooking in the kitchen and talking to them about the type of pozole, because you should know that there's several colors and taste and flavors of pozole, just like everything else within the Latino community, our food is very variable also in many aspects. I was sharing with them the opportunity of getting healthcare free or a very low cost. So take that kind of opportunities. That is the way that you're going to be able to connect with them. Be consistent, show up, get to culture. Now, Alan was sharing with me that a group of promotoras actually were going to that carnicerias. That's the word Alan couldn't mention. So carnicerias, which is a great place to go because you need to know, like he mentioned before, and it's very important, where they pray, where they play, and where they eat. The places that they visit the most, the schools, and that is the way to connect with them. But unfortunately, at this time, we cannot do it in person. So the place to go is definitely social media. Why is it so important that you make yourself known and be present, show up consistently in social media? Whether you are representing a community center, a community clinic, or an organization, you have to speak to them in graphics, in captions, and in video. That is very, very important. And you have to be consistent. You cannot do one post here and one post there and show up and there's the graphic and it's your information. It's a combination. And what you do in social media is the same thing we're accustomed in the Latino community in our neighborhoods. You create community, you strengthen relationships. So most of the people that follow me on social media, and you know, they're our friends now on social media, well, they feel they know me. They know my family, my kids, my habits, my behaviors, my beliefs, because I share that. But social media, it's a tool. You have to be very mindful how you use it. You have to give the sense, but not putting out there things that are going to be professional. You have to be very careful with the information, particularly in the line of work that you are. You're in a service line of work, trying to provide to them one of the most important needs that they have, particularly in this pandemic situation, which is healthcare. And remember that when I talk about the background in our community, it's the complexity of our families. Let me explain to you a little bit. As I mentioned, we are 9 kids. Most of us were raised and born in Mexico, but then we have the last 3, 4 in our household that were raised here from very young. 2 of them were born here. So we are from the same family. We were raised the same way, but yet we don't think the same. We don't process information the same because the acculturation is different and affects us in a different way. One thing is interesting that you should keep in mind that even if we're bilingual, like first and second generations of Latinos in this country, we might be bilingual and have an accent like I do, but yet we understand English, we can read English, and we prefer to get our information in Spanish. So that is very important for the outreach groups that you have within the different systems or organizations or clinics or community centers that you're representing. To keep in mind that when you're trying to reach Latinos, even if they're bilingual, they would prefer to get that information in Spanish. So that is very important. I have a lot of things to share with you, but I would like to make a quick break here to get a couple of questions from you. And Alan, I'm gonna need your help here. So how are we gonna be managing the questions? Or are you gonna be letting me know if there's any questions so far? I wanted to make it interactive and not just me, the talking head, sharing this.
Let's start with, if you have any questions for Mary, please put them in chat. And Meredith, do you have the control that you can open up a specific person if they raise their hand?
Yes, I'm able to do that.
Okay, so here you've got 2 options, put it in chat or raise your hand. And I don't see the raise your hand icon, but I'm sure others know where it is.
Okay, perfect. So let me know. I see the chats from Teresa Alvera, which is somebody I know already. I used to have her on the show a lot. So nice to hear from you. I see Berta Carvajal that we have on our Facebook Lives also, and many other people that I know from the group of participants. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you guys. So as I was mentioning a little bit about the background that we have, so the complexity or the built up in our communities, but particular in our family members. That's why it's so important to you, for you to know that if your target market, the group of parents, the group of adults that you're trying to reach, is it they're going to be first generations or second generation? Just to give you an idea, Collison area, Cashin, that area in the West Valley used to be known more for second, third, and fourth generations. But things have changed. Now a lot of new families have come to the area, so there's a mixture. So it all depends when you're going to be doing your social media, the posts, if you're going to be doing target market, who are you trying to attract? What is your ideal client, for a lack of a better term? It's who it is that you want to bring this information to. So typically you would go and talk to the mothers in a school event, or in a church event or a community center event. So those mothers are first generations of immigrants in the Valley, and their kids are born in here, or they're second and third generation. So that is very important for you to define who are you going to send the message to. Who are you going to be speaking? And the reason for that is because if you're going to be utilizing social media to reach that, that means that every single post, every single video, every single piece of information or marketing that you're going to share on social media is going to be directly to that person. Just to give you an example, the type of business that I do, and I use social media to, promote to new clients and also promote the services or products of my current clients. Every day I'm speaking to the same person. I create my conversation, ongoing conversation, to create a relationship with my ideal client. My ideal client is a business owner or a leader of an organization that is trying to reach the Latino community. So I have a duality. In my conversation, I connect to the people I'm bringing that information and the service to by being a mother, by being an immigrant, by showcasing that I'm an entrepreneur, by showcasing that I'm in many ways, a daughter of elder parents, that I need to support them in the process of getting their health services and many other aspects. So every time you see me posting that I am in a football game for one of my two kids, my sons, I am connecting to that people that I'm serving, and I'm also being a bridge for those organizations and companies that want to come to that community. Does it make sense what I'm explaining to you? And how you have to portray yourself in social media. Now, a great way to reach out is what you guys are doing. Cover Arizona have hired me to do this Facebook Lives, to do this type of connection, because the reason it's easier to connect with them instead of waiting to build that rapport or building that community through social media or building that engagement or that following for your own pages. Ellen know, and the people that hire me know that I have the trustworthiness from the community. They know that if I speak about a topic, I recommend a service or a product, is because I already did my homework and I know it's something that will enhance their daily life. So it's easier and quicker, that connection. So that would be probably an option that you would have to connect with them. Be very organic in your conversations. As like I mentioned with the example of me cooking in the kitchen, with a chongo done, you have to really connect with them and make them feel comfortable with the type of language and verbiage that you use, but also they have to see themselves in you. Las promotoras do an amazing job at that because they're mothers within the community. They're women that, you know, they're leaders, they're wanting to make a difference. So it's very easy for somebody to pick up the phone after they see them with me in one of those Facebook Lives and call them because they realize they're mothers like them. They have the mission or the purpose of supporting them and helping them to the process. So they're not going to feel uncomfortable if they don't know how to do the application online because they're not savvy, you know, technologically. They're not going to feel uncomfortable because they don't know nothing about the process and they need to go through education so they know how they're going to be able to qualify or not qualify. And they're going to feel very comfortable in that connection. They're going to be speaking to their next door neighbor. That's a way to portray it in many ways. So it is important for you to create that kind of image and also the consistency of showing up on social media and speaking to the same person. Every post I do, I'm speaking to the same person. It's an ongoing conversation of service that I have in communication and building relationship with that person. So we have here some comments, if you don't mind. If somebody has their hand raised up right now and wanted to interact or make a question, I would love to. And bear with me with my pauses. I was a victim of COVID too. I was one of the lucky ones that got it in the early stages, and I'm still struggling with my breathing situations. So just bear with me on that.
Berta, why don't you go ahead? I see that we have opened up your microphone. We'd love to hear your question, Berta.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, see.
Oh, cool. Okay, and I had a question, but she already answered it, Mari. Oh. We were on the same, because I had typed in, hola, mi querida Mari, do you believe the promotoras are a force that can help in the outreach efforts? And you said it afterwards. You mentioned that the promotoras or promotores, you know, are a very, very effective way to get information out into the community, because these are, you know, their community members, their neighbors. These are individuals, moms, grandmas, even dads, grandpas, who are part of the promotora movement. And so the more information, you know, we provide to the promotores through vehicles like the Hope Network, the more prepared they are to connect and inform the community on getting their children and families enrolled, reaching out and getting that health care coverage. So you know that I believe that the promotores is a force to reckon with, and we've seen the results, and we just need to continue, you know, reaching out and empowering the promotores with the information.
Definitely, Berta, I agree. And I am a big supporter of the promotoras. You know why? Because most of us that were raised or born in Latin America, we are so familiar with this concept of the promotoras. Our mothers, our grandmothers are so familiar with it. So it's very easy to connect. We either saw it as we were young kids and growing up, or we have heard them in the conversation. So it's a really easy fit in connection with you ladies and guys also being part of the Hope Network. So thank you so much for that feedback. I appreciate it.
Mary, I have a question, and obviously I'm not Hispanic. I'm just an old guy with gray hair. So my question is, how does an organization build trust in the Hispanic community? I have heard you speak. I love your line about promotoras are the mothers of the community. So how does an organization build trust within a community that has many reasons not to trust?
Well, you're doing it, Alan, and I'm going to refer back to the example I did. You guys are being very smart in the way that you're trying to reach the community. First of all, you're using a trustworthy image, which is, you know, the name that I have built in so long within that community. They trust me. I represent you guys every time I'm speaking about your service in the community, and I become that bridge. So you connect with them. So not necessarily that everybody has to hire Mari to do that, but finding the image, finding the icon in that community that they would trust, that they will listen to, and that is how you make that connection, that how you create that rapport. The longer you do that and the consistency that you have with that, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of organizations and communities or companies have when they're trying to reach our Latino community is that they show up and disappear. They show up for, you know, a few weeks, 1 or 2 months in the year, and then they disappear. No, you see Coca-Cola, you see McDonald's and media nonstop. Well, creating relationship on social media is the same thing. It's consistency and 3 elements more that I would add to. So when you are with your representatives in my Facebook lives, or if you're going to be doing in any other outlet out there, because to this situation, there are a lot of you know, possibilities now when it comes to doing social media marketing and things like that. It's not only enough to doing the target markets and paying the ads on social media to reach them. You have to go through a trustworthy figure, personality. That is the way that they're going to trust you, particularly like you said, if you don't speak the language, if you don't fit in the background, and they probably don't have education or information about who you are as an organization and what you do. So 3 things that are very important in everything that you do on social media, whether it's a Facebook Live, whether it's a post, whether it's just a caption that you're going to share or an image. And Alan, I don't know if you have the image that we created for you guys for the Register on the Cover Arizona. It would be great if you can share it through this conversation, if you can find it. If not, I can find it really quick.
I will find it, so you can just keep talking.
Wonderful. So the 3 things that you need to do on social media is to educate, inform, and entertain. So when I was cooking in the kitchen, I created curiosity. What is Mari doing? I had even the mandil on, which is, help me with my English limitations here. How do you say mandil in English? I went blank. Anybody? Berta?
Apron?
Apron.
Thank you. This COVID has me no focus and I'm killing me in all my elements, but thank you so much for coming to the rescue. So an apron. I had, you know, I was cooking, so I created the curiosity of people joining the Facebook. What is she doing? Is that the kitchen? Is that her house? You know, all that kind of questions that starts rolling up. But I used that opportunity as I was entertaining with a chisme to them to give them information, to educate them about an option, a possibility, in speaking to them in a very colloquial way about something that is so important nowadays, which is health, which it should be the #1 priority for all of us within our family. So using those tactics, remember, every time you're gonna show up, you're gonna do something on social media, and I urge you and I invite you to be consistent in what you do. You have to inform, educate, and entertain. That is the way you're going to keep them hooked to you. And while you're trying to convey to them the education and information, so you have to be creative. It's not like the days where I used to do news and all I felt I did was the headlines of a topic or subject to my community. I knew there was a lot more to be done. And that's why I love so much what I do now. And I love training other people to do so, because it's important. There's so many topics that can really enhance our daily life. Right now, what you guys are doing with Cover Arizona by promoting people, trying to get them to qualify for, you know, the health insurance that is available to them, educating them. Remember that in Latino community, there's a lot of fear. There's mixed families, like I mentioned before. When we just immigrated here, my father had a documentation. He had the green card. The rest of us didn't have, we were undocumented. And then we have 2 members of the family that were citizens. So that is, in the most cases in our families in the Latino community, the same scenario. There's mixed families when it comes to the background. So a lot of parents are afraid to call that number from Cover Arizona and ask about insurance because they're afraid that the person on the other line will ask them about their legal status, that would have their information and set immigration them. So that is one of the reasons we have over 10,000 kids without insurance here in Arizona, because we're not doing a good job educating that community and also letting them know that by getting that kind of service, health insurance for their kids, that is a right to them, would not affect them in the process of becoming legal in the future or in the process of immigration for them. So do we have another question or another comment? Thank you, Alan. I see that you're sharing with us now. This is a graphic that my company created for you guys. And before I explain anything, I would like one or two of you guys to tell me, what do you see in this image? Anybody, raise your hand, open your mic and share with us. I like to do conversations and being interactive. I don't like to be that talking head because I believe we learn more this way. Happy and
familia.
Familia. What else do we see?
I see our logo, Hope Network.
You're really good at branding, Berta. I'll give you that.
Yes.
Happy and healthy, Teresa says. Juan Pedrosa, thank you so much for sharing this. Mari, thank you, Juan. Catalina says she's his family. Please send on here, familia. Okay. Well, if you see, we're telling a story in here. So the message is definitely family. Remember that the push that Cover Arizona has, it's health coverage, free or low cost for all the family. So just in this image, with very little wording, but you see the predominant, it's that the smiley, the family, and a lot of Latino families can relate to that image right now, right? Which is the young families, and these are the kids that we're trying to reach the most because they're the ones more vulnerable and they don't have the health coverage because of the fear of their parents. So you see that there's the number. This is the call to action. That's why it's in bold and it's with black background. You see the different colors. That's not only bringing part of the Hope Network that is the ones answering to them, but also shows the variety that comes when it comes to the Latino community and the backgrounds that we have. We have the three elements or the three organizations collaborating in this effort. And we even highlighted para toda la familia. So we're not eliminating the opportunity for women to reach out, for men, because there are a lot of single men and women, you know, in those situations that could qualify for that type of insurance also. And for those that may be a little bit savvy, we also have the link to connect with them, right? Directly to do it online, which we know most of our community would prefer to call in right away instead of going online and trying to figure it out themselves. Any other feedback that we have from this image that you see?
Mary, this is Alan again. And one of the questions that occurs to me is you have created a large social media following, but you also have a radio show and a television show. So if someone is watching today and let's say they're in Casa Grande and they want to, at their organization, whatever organization it is, let's say it's a community health center, but it doesn't have to be, how can they create a following of Hispanic people? Because you don't have a big list to start with. So kind of, how do you begin? It's one thing to keep it going. It's another thing to start.
Very simple, Ellen. Three things I mentioned before: inform, educate, and entertain. The more you share content, the more you're showing up. My suggestion is to do every day or a minimum of 3 posts a week which is very low, and that is for more of maintenance, but the minimum of 3 posts a week. And share education. Now, one of the mistakes that a lot of people that start social media do is that you see the simplicity of this graphic and all the information that it has and all the background and the story that people can create. This is storytelling and graphics. Bottom line, that's what it is. So when you guys are used to making those big flyers, right? And you can bring me back if you want. So you guys are used to making those long flyers with a lot of information that you would pass along in the events, or am I wrong? For those of you guys that were always in the different community events or reach out events, correct? So all that information in social media doesn't have movement because it has a lot of copy, a lot of words, a lot of writing. So you have to become creative and be a storyteller. You notice how I started my presentation. I started telling you my background, where I am from, how big my family is, the differences among our own families and the way we communicate, you know, because my parents have a way of understanding and receiving information. Me and my siblings are a little bit different, but then if we add to that, the ones that were raised here, born here, that had no contact with the culture as strong as we did before. They were raised by the same parents, they were raised in the same household, but they think different. They're more Americanized in many aspects. And we have that a lot within our community. So the people that you should be reaching out, it's mothers. That is where your bread and butter it is, to get more people to join the different, you know, programs that you're sharing with them. And you have to get yourself situated or connected to a mother. What is like the daily routine of a mother? Running around, taking care of their kids, feeding the family, making sure they are taken care and provided for them in many aspects. And a lot of mothers are working mothers like myself too. That's why I was giving you guys the example of the things that I share and how relatable I become to them. Before, they used to see me only just a newscast. And, you know, through the desk of the news and the image of the TV. Now, you know, thanks to social media, I take them shopping with me when I go to the grocery store. I am in my kitchen, I am in my bedroom, I am, you know, in comfort of my household in many aspects. The living room, I take them with my kids to their sporting events. So it's an ongoing building relation and being relatable. That is the one thing you need to do. And that's what the growing the following it is. Now, very important when you're going to do marketing, and this is one of the things that I educate my clients in, you might find a lot of influencers or a lot of people that have large numbers of followings, 1 million, 300,000, 400,000. Always look at their engagement. What is their engagement? On social media, you have to see how much they conversate, how many comments they get, how many shares they get, not only the views, but how much do they engage with their followers. That is so important, because that means that is where you're going to put your money in, because they trust the person. They have that confianza, that's trust with them. So when you see that kind of movement, that is the right place to go and invest your money for marketing or reaching out to the community in whatever aspect you want to do. Now, it seems like we have another comment here. Alan, flyers. The flyer is specific stating that there is a low-cost health care for everyone in the family. My question is, what is available to an adult who doesn't have immigration status? That is more of a question, I'm assuming, for Berta, right? Because for what we do in our social media conversation is that we also mentioned that we refer them, and not me, but the promotoras refer the people that call and they don't have a status to what it would be a community clinic center.
Yes.
Where they can get like a payment or low
sliding fee scale.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Berta.
Yes, we connect them with the clinics, community clinics, where they can receive, you know, medical attention based on their income or lack of income, but it's a sliding fee scale. There are different programs in the community at different health clinics where they can receive health care.
Right, perfect. So for Diana Marcela Diaz, to answer more on your question is, that graphic was done because the urgent matter or the call to action for the agreement that I have with Cover Arizona is to have as many families to call in. Yeah. Every situation is different. So if they were telling me, you know, Mari, we have this partnership with this community centers that they want to promote to the undocumented community, that they have this paying fee scale for them, and they want to promote that, then my graphic would have a different storytelling on it. And that would be that highlighted option of it. But when they call the number, the promotora is already trained to assess the caller and ask them about the status, and, you know, in a way that they're not going to feel offended or they're not going to be apprehensive or scared to answer, but to provide them solutions for their need of health care. Hopefully that answered your question.
Mary, and this is Alan, I'll just jump in again that if you're dealing with somebody that lacks documentation, federally qualified community health centers, all of the members of the Arizona Alliance for Community Health Center take everybody, and they offer the sliding scale and no questions are asked. And the staff you deal with have been trained not to ask questions in a negative way, but to get the information they need and provide reassurance. There's another category in our community called free clinics, and you can Google free clinics and find a lot of them. Free clinics provide kind of temporary care. They don't become a medical home. You don't keep going back to them, but they can certainly provide a need. And then the third point is a person that lacks legal immigration status can still get emergency access. And the thing about emergency access is most people think of it as a mother that's expecting or a woman that's expecting. I have a dear friend whose husband fell from a scaffolding. He was uninsured and he got on emergency access and had to have major leg surgery. So while it's not frequent, men can even get emergency access. So those are kind of the three parts. None of them perfect, but it's something.
Now,
yes, that's
go ahead, Berta.
Sorry. I was just going to make the comment that the team of bilingual promotores that answer the 1-800 number, you know, are very well prepared, you know, to take the caller's, you know, question. We're not in a position to get into specifics or the, you know, of their eligibility process. We make appointments, you know, based on their zip code with one of the clinics, so that a navigator, who are all very well trained, or an assister, are all very well trained to walk them through their eligibility process, whether it's for their children, you know, for kids care access, or their eligibility, you know, for access, or the marketplace or healthcare. And if they're in that position where they, you know, aren't eligible, then they're very well prepared to connect them with what Ellen was saying, whether it's emergency access and or one of the centers. And if they happen to share with us, some of the callers do share with the promotores that answer the phone, you know, yo no tengo papeles, ¿cómo puedo recibir ayuda? You know, I don't have papers, how can I receive, you know, medical care? So we offer as much information as possible, but we are not in the position to actually take we don't take their personal, you know, information, only their zip code. And then the assisters and navigators will get into the more detailed.
Well, this would be a call to action on my behalf. Remember the 3 elements that I told you to create, reporting, grow, following, and social media?
Yes.
Educate, inform,
educate,
and entertain. So I believe,
and entertain.
I believe And this is why I'm so happy about the partnership that we have right now, because there is an ongoing list of topics that is a must to be addressed consistently on social media for the Latino community. Being this particular, and thank you to Diana Diaz for asking this question, because it brings a reality. You know, there's a huge percentage of undocumented community, Latino community here in Arizona that do not have this education about the, you know, paying scaling fee or those community centers, or even knowing, just like you mentioned, Alan, there is the notion, the interpretation that emergency access is only available for those women about to give birth. So those type of topics address short, sweet, straight to the point in a colloquial way, in consistency on social media, can really bring a lot of value to the community and grow the aspect of people using the services available to them that they have no notion, no education or information about it. And it's just one of the many other topics that is needed to be discussed consistently. So I also know that within the people participating today, many of you guys have done an amazing work building your own rapport on social media. How do you add to that? How do you make it grow? Well, it's storytelling, consistency, keep showing up, add value. Every conversation, every post, every caption have to bring some kind of value to the community in many aspects based on your service or your product that you're trying to convey to them. If you're a resource center, I mean, the topics are endless, and the type of posting, you have to be creative. Just like what I mentioned in the example that we did at the graphic, is just one of many things that you can do. Don't be complicated when you're speaking to them or conveying information to them on social media. Very basic: what, where, when, how, and why. Very straight to the point, very clean. Don't leave a lot of area. Don't talk too much. Don't leave a lot of area for confusion, for possibility of confusion to them. And always speak to them as you're the next door neighbor. I cannot emphasize more on that. Always be reliable and relatable to them. They have to be able to relate to you in all aspects of who you are and why you're there to support and help them. That you have to earn the trust. And one perfect way is going through a person or an image that they have it. You guys are doing it by utilizing our services, but there are other people also doing that too. So who is the demographic that you're trying to communicate? And by the beauty of social media, you're not only helping people in Casa Grande, in Tucson, in Gilaven, in Harcahila Valley, which is the area that my family and I immigrated to Arizona in 1990. So remote areas that you physically probably would have a difficult time going there, time-wise constrained. By the beauty of social media, you can speak to all of them at once. So take advantage of this tool that is free, that is available, it's ongoing, and remember, go to where the community that you're trying to reach is. Where did I say at the beginning the Latinos were in the platforms? Who can answer that to me? This is a test.
Repeat your question.
What are the two platforms that I mentioned the Latinos are on all the time? Who can answer that? I have a bunch of platforms right here on this side, but two of them are the ones, yeah. WhatsApp and Facebook, yes. But WhatsApp is more of a family friend thing that they do. You can advertise in WhatsApp, but to be more specific and more direct, use Instagram and Facebook. Facebook being number one.
Yes.
Facebook groups, join Facebook groups where you can share information, do your post. Now, one thing that I'm going to suggest that you are cautious with, don't use your business page as your personal page. I have a difficult situation because my situation is very particular, but if you're gonna have, let's say, Cover Arizona page, and it's handled or managed by 2 or 3 people, those persons should not be posting personal stuff there. That's a whole different story. So there's an etiqueta. Help me on this one too. You can tell I'm an ESL student when it comes to English. So there are rules and there are fine lines that you cannot cross when you're using social media. So be very professional, please, in many ways. So you have the trust always building on from the community that is following you.
Mary, this is Alan again, and I have a question I think it's relevant for everybody, but I grew up in a world where the ground was white about 9 months of the year, and the food we ate was white. We added flour and cream and butter, and then of course the people were just like the ground, and they looked like me. So I have a question about color. If we are doing a social media post and we want to be consistent, and our target audience would be Hispanic women with children or ready to have children, that demographic, are there colors that we should stay away from, or are there colors that we should use? Because of course, if I wore anything that was bright colored, I would be shunned in my hometown for being flashy.
Well, the beauty of the Latino community is it's like my family, the perfect example. I am morenita, dark hair, short. My sister next to me is a blonde, güera, guapísima. We only missing the redhead in our family. So with that said, Latinos, we come in all colors, flavors, and sizes, right? So
yes, right.
don't stick to the typical notion that we're short and dark like myself. We are very flavorful in many aspects and colors and sizes. So a lot of people from the area that I am are blonde and tall. So don't stereotype. That is the word I was looking for.
And I was also thinking about color of not just the people, but your background is red and white. Are there colors we should stay away from if we're trying to attract a Hispanic audience in our marketing materials, in the backgrounds and the logos and stuff?
No, use a lot of color.
Lots of color.
Lots of color.
Can't use too much, huh?
It's never too much. I mean, color.
You notice that when we were creating the graphic for you, we went ahead, we knew that the center of connection for all the people that were called was going to be the promotora. So that's why, I don't know if you noticed, that a lot of the colors in the graphics that are highlighted come from the logo of the promotoras, right?
Yes.
A variety, but we wanted to make that connection. That is a subliminal message, and that is a storytelling in graphics in many ways. So we're creating rapport for them, we're creating trustworthy, and people can connect to that. And it's a lot that we can explain. It's like when you go to a museum and you see those beautiful pieces of art. Well, it's kind of similar what you're doing with graphic content, and the way you have to go beyond what just you see in an image and start telling a story with images, the colors, and the type of words that you're choosing so specifically to connect with the target audience that you have.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions in regards to that, or to other area of connecting with the Latino community also that you may want to? I can keep going and talking, but I want to make sure I'm using this last few minutes of our conversation to answer any questions that you may have. And there's not small or big questions, you know, the type of outreach that you're trying to do. Allow me to help you in that process. If you just share with me what are some of your challenges or what are some of the results that you're getting, maybe I can help you improve them or just make a little tweaks here and there in the outreach that you're doing to create more momentum. You guys are too quiet. I have never had a group this quiet, particularly when you're doing outreach. This is not normal. Anyone else? Okay, I'm gonna start calling on people. So Ashley Torres, can you put your mic on, please, and let me know who you represent and what are some of the outreach that you guys are doing to get to the community?
I think you're open. No, she's still muted.
She's muted.
Yeah.
They should have the access to.
Meredith, can you open up Ashley Torres?
Thank you.
Okay, so I think she needs to unmute on her end now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ashley, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Ashley, if you hear us, please, if you can unmute yourself. Okay. How about Shelly Ross? Since she was on screen and everything a minute ago, I'm sure she has control of that.
Oh, I'm one of the organizers. Let's see, I am not able to unmute her either.
Or not.
Well, Shelley, do you have a question? Because you draw people to events a lot. That's part of your role.
Yeah.
Any questions come to mind for you?
Well, here, I'll come on screen now too. Hold on.
Look
I've
at
got
you.
my-
You're the brave one. Yes, I like that.
I've got my mask hanging off my ear. Anyway, it's been a rough day. You know, I think that it's really interesting, you know, hearing about the Latino community. I mean, obviously I'm not Latino. I had heard that the WhatsApp and the Facebook, I had heard that previously, that those were great ways to contact, but I really love, you know, going back to my high school Spanish days, when they taught you how to speak correct Spanish, you know, which nobody speaks that unless you're in Spain. And I sit there and I'm thinking about what you're thinking about, making them feel comfortable and part of the family. You know, I think that's one of the most important things, is for people to be able to communicate at the same level. I've always believed you need to communicate at the same level as the people you are working with. And so I really found that an interesting comment from you, because there's, you know, I think that's something that some of us that are non-Spanish speaking and, you know, maybe don't have enough time to engage with the community, you know, that's an interesting, you know, interesting thing to find out. And so.
Definitely be relatable to them in many aspects. You may not be Latino, but you're probably also a mother, you're a working mother, you have so many other aspects. Find the affinity of them with food, with music, with kids issue, with, you know, the pandemic situation that we're living, the challenges that you're facing. So there's so many levels that you can be relatable to them, even though if you're not part of the community in many aspects. So that should not be a challenge. And that's why I was calling on different people, because depending on what type of outreach you do, what kind of organization you are representing, I know that challenges or the, you know, the ideals of how connecting and who to connect are different. That's why I think it's very valuable to the group if we use this, you know, reminding time to do this back and forth in questions, so I know how I can provide better information, so you can apply those you know, details and make it a bigger impact within your work, your line of work.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, with Arizona, you know, the Hispanic culture is such a part of every community in Arizona, and I think that being able to bring the people from these communities in, get them insurance, and being able to communicate effectively is the most important. So I admire all the work that that Alan has done over the years with this project, you know, the different facets of Cover AZ. So it has been exciting to be at the Alliance and have seen the work that Alan's done.
Well, thank you so much for participating, and I appreciate, Shelly, that you're being brave, showing your face, and not only
Yeah, I see all these people typing in. You need to show your faces or something. Here, let me say.
I have a question. There's a question that just came in.
Yeah, we have Tracy Jaramillo says, I work for Teros, and I am an eligibility specialist. My Spanish is very broken, but when I have a Spanish speaking client, I try to make them feel comfortable by connecting with them, by asking them to correct my Spanish so I can learn to speak correctly. Then like that, I do that. And that is the perfect way. You try to make them comfortable. Like Shelly mentioned a minute ago, try to make them feel like they're speaking to somebody within their family, that they're not apprehensive, that they're not going to be nervous. Try to make them welcome in many ways. Your attitude, your body language, the type of wording that you're going to be used to connect with them. So thank you. That is a great way to do so. And we have one more, you said, Alan, that I missed?
I don't see another one right now. I've been trying to prompt some people.
Brenda Cardenas, I remember having you on my shows. Is Brenda able to unmute herself?
Yeah, I was trying to reach Brenda because she's had so much experience. I thought she might have something. Brenda, if you can hear us, you're unmuted. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I'm not feeling well, so I'm not going to turn my camera on. But
your family looks great.
Thank you. So what we're doing for outreach, I mean, we've actually been very lucky lately. We've been able to do some outreach where we do get to go out to our communities. And we started actually by partnering with U of A. They invited us to a couple of events where they had scheduled appointments to do some health screenings. And because they just basically do the blood pressure, glucose, and a few other services, they're not the actual primary care provider. They would invite us to come out so that families who would get the screenings done by them would then come to our table to be able to find out, do you have health insurance? Can we help you apply for a program like Access or our sliding fee scale program? And if so, we would try to help them right then and there if possible. And then also helping them with scheduling appointments to see a provider as well, because we'd encounter a lot of families that had not seen a provider in a while. So that was a very successful thing for us. We're just getting into doing a little bit more of social media. That's something that we've not been the best at, but we're getting there. So just being better about posting about where we're going to be at, things that are happening. But we do more of just general organization posting. It's not just specific to enrollment or to eligibility. But it's been going really good so far. It's just been difficult because we're used to doing our traditional outreach, like, for this year for open enrollment, I really miss doing those events at the schools where we have those mass gatherings, but that's obviously not going to be a possibility. But you feel like you're missing so many people that are probably not going to apply for health coverage because we're not able to do those sorts of things.
So it's time to reinvent the wheel. And you said something very interesting, Brenda, by collaborating with other organizations. That's a great way because you're using the network or their platforms in order to reach more people. And there are services that they complement each other. And I'm sure among the participants, you represent different organizations that can definitely do that. So tag along, conversate with each other on social media, cross promote. It's very important that you do that. And fortunate and unfortunately, depending on how you want to see it, and I see that everything happens for a reason, this pandemic is reinventing the way we do life at all different aspects of our lives. So social media has become the point of connection, of conversation, of community for us as Latinos. So where should you go since you cannot go to the schools or the different community centers that you were used to going to those mass gatherings? Now you go to social media. So try to utilize the same analogy of how you used to go to those events with them to join them in conversation in their platforms. Find those organizations that are doing a good job with social media where you guys can collaborate and cross promote and participate in Facebook Lives and postings where people can reach you and you can bring the added value to those organizations also.
Mary, I can add something to that comment of yours. Many of the folks listening in today have probably worked with Title I schools, they're low-income schools, and they have community liaisons. And the community liaison's job is to work with the parents. And in the past, people like Brenda and others would go to those meetings at the school and they would present and talk. I'm willing to bet, well, I'm not a betting man, but I'm willing to guess that the community liaisons are still working hard to connect with parents. They are probably having Zoom meetings. And if you can connect with the right person at the school that is pulling a group together, they may be very happy to have you provide content and build the relationships. We don't have to stop trying just because we can't get in front of the group.
You are so correct on that, Alan. Just to give you guys an example, one of my clients is Isaac School District, which I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with it because they're definitely Title I schools, and about 92% Latino of the kids that they serve in their families. They also have part of Isaac, which is kind of like their own community center where they provide all these services. They're reinventing themselves on how they reach the families that they've been serving and depend in many ways of the services that they provide. So find those key components from the different school districts in the areas where you are located or you are to reach out to those communities and those families and connect with them. You're not going to be physically anymore, but you will be participating with them through information in their packages where they're providing lunches, food, or different services to the community. You know, you can put your flyers there, your information, you can participate in their Zooms, you can send them graphic of informations like the ones I just showed you so they can post on their social media. You know, Heart of Isaac is very active also on social media as well as the district. It's been a work in progress. Now they're a little bit ahead because they started working with me in social media marketing a year and a half before this started. But there are a lot of other districts that I can think that they're really good on social media also is Pendergast. You know, Dr. LeBlue does an amazing work in Reach Out, and she saw the vision of social media to communicate with her families too. So those are just two examples of the many more that are out there. It's just finding the connection. You have to think out of the box in this time of pandemic. You still have to be able to do outreach. It's not the traditional way anymore. That is a thing from the past. And because of the situation we're seeing right now, I can assure you it's going to take a while for us to go back, if we ever go back to those situations and those scenarios. So right now, what can you do with what you have? How can you improve the number of families that you're going to be reaching and conveying that important information that you have in your hands to make their life or their daily life better, which is that journalism with the purpose that we do at Mari Rabago Productions, right?
Right.
Share that information that enhances their daily life, which is along the way what you guys do in your daily work also.
Maddie, we have a very interesting question. And it comes, I believe, from Matt Jewett over at Mountain Park. And how does everyone see the changing political environment with a new administration in Washington, D.C.? Do we think that, and Mary, maybe you can address this, the current administration has been quite hostile towards immigrants, and I won't say more, but the incoming administration will most likely be much more friendly towards immigration and maybe change some of the public charge regulations that have caused so much fear. What are you hearing in your community about, and this isn't about politics, this is about access to health care and not being so afraid. Are you hearing anything about that?
I think everything is in tormentous waters right now. There's a lot of hope of, you know, what possible changes would be with a new administration, but yet there's a lot of apprehensiveness also within the community. of that. You know, the Obamacare, or the, you know, the actual law that we have for healthcare right now, as is known within my community for the most part, brought health insurance to a lot of people that in many other aspects or ways they would not have access to that. But yet, there was a lot of controversial on it, and a lot of people that would be able to join it chose not to join it also. So there's hope. But I'll be very honest with right now, the main concern of every family, every head of household right now is putting food on the table and having their family healthy. Yes, there's a lot of back and forth when politics with the situation. There is hope. Maybe that would answer your question, but yet until we don't see it, something being done about it, the main concern in the most conversations right now, who will survive for that now to the time that the next administrations take over. We see it in the news constantly that there's an expectation of at least 100,000 people dying in this country until the change of administration occurs, which too many, if you ask me, or you ask anybody in the community. We see it with what happened this morning. I'm sure you saw the news, over 10,000 cases here in Arizona. Jump from 3,000 to over 10,000. What's going to happen in the next coming days? I think it's so much uncertainty that we're living right now that we can't put the hope in no governor or president or, you know, any administration at the time, because something needs to be done now. What can we do with what we have in our hands right now, or the leaders that we have? That would be the better question, I think.
Mary, addressing your statement about hope, even though there's a lot of rough waters that we're going through. Matt and some others have also raised the question about, we will have a COVID vaccine soon. And after hopefully first responders and medical people get vaccinated, it'll start moving out across the state and across the community. There will be some hesitancy among many people to get the vaccine.
Yes.
But do you see the Hispanic community being more hesitant or less hesitant than the general community to get a COVID vaccine? And is there some role that those of us that work in outreach and enrollment for health coverage can work in a positive way with the whole issue of vaccines in general, but a COVID vaccine specifically? Your thoughts, please.
The community is very divided on that notion of the vaccine. Within a family, you have, you know, two groups. Yes, I would put it right away. The other one, heck not. I'm not going to allow them to put that thing on me. And the reason is lack of information, uncertainty in many aspects. I think the biggest issue right now that our community faces, don't lie, you know that the Latino community is the one leading the numbers of death and infected or cases of COVID-19. Usually are the ones in the, you know, service industry. We're, you know, working more in the contact with people. Lack of income in our households to have all the sanitizing elements that we need, less opportunities because of the type of work. If you have a parent or father that works in constructions, that works in restaurants, you know, he doesn't have the freedom of you and I have to work from home via Zoom. So those are a lot of different elements that our families are facing. And I urge you guys, since I have this platform right now, because you are, you have the ear of people that make decisions for our community. Right now, we need an educational campaign for the Latino community when it comes to COVID. It's not enough what's being done. There's a lot of mixed messages out there. There's not one message that resonates with the community the way it should be. And people are not taking it serious. Now, when you have situations in most of our households, you even mentioned that and you illustrated that, Alan, with your statistics. We have incomes below the poverty line in the country. So is their health or providing for their families. They're mixed households when it comes to immigration status. So there are a lot of different challenges in our household that is not in the general market. And the numbers of people that are dying the faster are the Latinos. I believe the number is between 20 and 44 years. Just this week alone, I have a handful of people that I know personally that have lost their life due to COVID. How much are we going to do as leaders in our community in the health industry to stop this? We can't wait until the next administration takes over. What can we do today? And that is educate them and bring resources. How we can collaborate, how can we cross-promote, how can we bring solutions, immediate solutions to the people we're serving already? That would be my question to you guys.
It's a good question, and obviously there are many questions about what resources will be available and so on and so forth. So on this question of vaccine or no vaccine, obviously the general population is divided, just as you indicated. Hispanics are divided. Who do Hispanic populations, and I know it's not one, it's many, Mary, but who do they look to? Because we seem to be in a time where the doctor expert or the scientist expert is no longer taken at face value. So if you were designing an education campaign, who would you put out front in terms of a description? I'm not saying who person, but what do you lead with?
I would lead with education. And you mentioned you can think a little bit that through my conversation, the word that has stuck the most
right now
itself, it's education. So we have a lot of community doctors that speak Spanish that should be participating in that. You have renowned personalities in the community that you should be using. But my call to action would be not to wait until that vaccine is available. That campaign of education needs to start yesterday and start bringing, educating them the pros and cons. What is it similar this vaccine compared to the flu vaccine? Even for the flu vaccine, how many people that you know, and I know in the Latino community, the number of people that don't get that flu vaccine is ridiculous high. So if we're not doing a good job educating on something that we have been doing and using that many years, imagine the challenges that would be to educate them and prompt them to take action and take a vaccine that there's so much uncertainty around it.
And then you add to that the issue of lack of trust of governmental organizations, and the government will be involved in distributing the test, even though the actual needle in the arm will come from local providers like Mountain Park or Adelante or El Rio. I'm just picking on some of the providers that I see here, and there are others. So you've given us quite a challenge, Mary, to try to think about how to approach an education campaign starting now. And that's an interesting
conversation, Alan. Ongoing conversation. Don't wait to have the perfect education campaign. Start education segments through social media, through any outlet that you can have the ear of the community in many aspects, in video and graphics and, and however, radio, you name it. But it has to be an ongoing conversation about the changes. Have people feel comfortable with the topic. Have people be comfortable with the people presenting the topic. Choose, those elements, those community doctors. And, on top of my head, I have a lot of them that I work with them, and I bring them that they're very easygoing in conversation, in a way that people can relate to their language, to their background, and they are trustworthy in the community. And, you know, I have a handful of doctors that I know that they're very well known, they're trusted in the community, but it's the ongoing conversation what is going to make the difference. I think one of the biggest mistakes, big organizations, especially when government and you overthink things a lot, is that you're trying to make this perfect and make it politically correct and make it, you know, all this. No, it's an ongoing. Start today with one message and build on that and create more momentum. So you are becoming the beacon of light in the community when it comes to making that decision, because it's going to be a tough decision. You ask me, with all the information that I, you know, I stuff myself daily, for a lack of a better word. I cannot tell you if I'm going to be able choose to put the vaccine or not on me. I cannot answer that question to you right now. And I can be, you know, one of the demographics that is educated, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if I'm going to be okay putting the vaccine in. We had this conversation on a Zoom call with a couple of friends in, you know, different aspects of the Valley. And, you know, it was very divided. I have two friends that they're dying for it so they can go and get it. I'm like, I'm more apprehensive about it.
And I think that's really an interesting topic, but what you said is so important. It's the conversation. A Facebook argument has never changed anybody's mind. It's relationship, it's conversation. And as we kind of wrap up here, Mehdi, I've put up a slide. There is a little post test, and I've also encouraged people to type into chat. We have funding to do one more of these educational webinars in January. It doesn't have to be the same topic. It could be different topics. I just want some input from people that are on. But Mary, I want to kind of let you have the last word before we say goodbye today. If you want to summarize or if you want to add new information, you know, this is the producer saying, wrap it up, but we have plenty of time for you to wrap it up.
Well, my last message to you would be what I began with. I believe social media is free. It's one of those tools available to anyone, and use it and abuse it. Use it the proper way. Make sure you're consistent in that conversation. Design your ideal client. Who are you talking? Who are you speaking? Every day when I get up and, you know, I do usually my morning post, I'm always talking to the same woman. It's a woman. This is her age. This is her income. She's an entrepreneur. She's just a mother. She's this. And I have all this list of items or qualities that she has or elements that this persona has. And I conversate with her every day consistently. And I provide value to her. And I bring education to her, and I bring resources to her, and I bring information, and I also entertain her. So keep that in mind and apply it. It's not going to happen overnight where you're going to see your page going from 50 to 5,000, but it will build up. And remember, you guys are an asset to each other. Collaborate, cross-promote, educate yourself the more. It's never going to be perfect. You just need to put it out there. Don't try to design the perfect graphic. Don't try to find the perfect words to do a Facebook Live or to create this video. Just get out there. Start getting comfortable with being out there and create those relationships. Remember that with every post, with every video, with every presentation you do or you just show up, you're creating, you're building on a relationship. You can save a lot of lives just by providing the information that you guys have in the resources. And I'm not exaggerating, because with a phone call that you may get from your center, from your organization, from, you know, Cover Arizona, you never know how you will be impacting the life of that individual and the family as a whole. So don't take for granted what you do every day, in particular, the use of social media. I believe it should be one of your biggest assets right now. Just a matter of you not to be afraid of it and start using it.
And I'm getting some things popping up on chat, like that reminds me that, you know, a person that is concerned about putting food on the table might be also concerned about putting gas in the tank, transportation, or housing. We in this country are going to be facing some difficult times as millions of people that are behind in their rent or their mortgage payment are going to be faced with some changes when government makes changes about forgiveness of these things. So we're in for a rough ride. It isn't over. But Mary, I'm getting messages here saying that people are very thankful for you and for your being a part of this today and sharing information, and you have this heart for sharing. And I love the fact that you've picked 5 primary areas to focus on as you work with building your community and informing your community and educating your community. And if everybody had their cameras on, I would ask them to please start applauding, but we don't have that right now, but people are putting in chat, thank you. Again, I just want to remind people that please go to the Survey Monkey that is, you can see on my screen, but also it's in the chat. Part of the funding that we receive requires that we ask you pre-tests and post-tests and evaluations. But again, Mary, so many things you've said today have, as you've said, have been relevant. You've kept it very real. And I'm going to give you the final word before I sign off here, but I'm going to put the next slide up that has, that you can, how to contact myself, how to contact Marcus, and I've got Medi's website on the screen. Many years ago when I was taking a writing class for business, they said, imagine a picture frame and put in that picture frame the person that you are writing to. And you've said the same thing about social media. This persona, what is their age? Where do they live? Do they have kids? What's their income? Picture the person you're trying to reach. And I know that when we work for organizations, we sometimes have rules about it has to look this way, or you have to approach things a certain way. We have to learn how to be approachable if we want to be approached. Thanks. We have to be trustworthy if we want to build trust. And you've reminded us of those things today. So we're ready to close it up. Mary, you get the final word, and then I'll just stop sharing everybody's screen.
Thank you so much to everyone. And I want to close with one thing. There's one thing that we all have in common, myself with every single one of you here. We're doing what we love to do, the jobs that we have, the leadership that you have in each of these organizations. It's not to make us millionaires. We have it because of the passion that we have to serve others. That's why I created my company, and I assure that that is one of the reasons that you do what you do every day. We have the satisfactions of changing lives with the work we do. Don't take that for granted. And I know many times your work goes unrecognized, but I know if you're a believer, somebody up there is always watching. We impact the lives of our families in our community. I applaud what you do every day. And I also want to mention that if we can be a service in my company to any of your organizations, we'll be more than happy to serve you as we're collaborating here. And it's been an honor to have this time to conversate with you. Hopefully you are not disappointed. It's more of a conversation. I think we learn more because I learn a lot in the process of conversating with you also. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you all that participated today, and have a good evening and a safe trip home. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.